Hey everyone. It's been quite a while since I've posted. Definitely been quite a while. A lot of things happening in life, just very busy, and just didn't really have a chance to kind of do this side project that I really want to do. But we're back. We're back. So I am currently on full self-driving version 14.2.4. And we are heading towards the Roosevelt Island Racket Club, and I am, as always, off to play tennis. So running a little bit late today, so I can't go over to Brooklyn Bridge. We're gonna have to go over the Williamsburg, but that should be fine. Should be fine. It's a little bit faster. I don't know if you saw back there, but just this past weekend, I'm sure many of you know. The New York Knicks, the basketball team, just won the NBA championship on Saturday. Pretty epic game, really great run. You know, I wouldn't say that I was really a basketball fan or a Knicks fan before I moved to New York, but since I moved, Knicks have been playing well and given us like a great reason to celebrate them. So the parade for the Knicks is tomorrow, and if you kind of caught some glimpses back there, it looks like they're setting up some stuff around City Hall for that. So our route today is going to take us down to South Street. We're going to take South Street over to the streets where we are then able to get onto the Williamsburg, quickly hop onto the BQE, get off, and then I think take surface streets over to Roosevelt Island. All right, so just here, very interesting behavior with version 14 that I've noticed. Like, again, 14.2.4.2.2.4 has been out for a long time. I've been on this version for a little while. This upgrade from 13 to 14 happened sometime over the winter this year. But here with that yellow light, I don't really know if version 13 would have gone through it, but personally, I think that there was enough time that I would have gone through that yellow. Now, maybe that's not quite in the spirit of what you're supposed to do, you know, like if it's yellow and you can stop, you should stop. But in the spirit of living in the city, if you have a sufficiently long yellow light to make it through, you should probably just go through. Ultimately, I don't think this is actually going to change our ability to get through the next light. I think I probably would have had to wait for the next cycle anyways. So, you know, a lot of people rush, but in reality, does that actually matter? Most of the time, like, probably not. You're not really going to get there that much faster. But just as a habit of a city driver, you know, this is what I would kind of do. All right, so here, nice example of a cyclist going the wrong way. One thing I like about this version is that it doesn't slam on the brakes for these sort of things. Now, if there's a pedestrian that's getting close, it definitely is not afraid to brake pretty hard. I have noticed that, but you know, like in that scenario there, it didn't freak out because there was a cyclist coming towards us. As you may have seen, you know, version 14.3 is already out. I've been hesitating to upgrade to it because there have been a lot of reports of phantom braking, and I can tell you that I, as well as other passengers that ride in this car, do not particularly enjoy phantom braking, especially given that there are so many pedestrians and cyclists hanging out near the curbs here in the city, but you don't really brake for them. That's just not something that you do. So, you know, here 14.2.4 has been doing a pretty great job with it. But I have seen that 14.3.4, I have seen a lot of reports that say a lot of the phantom braking issues for small objects, small animals have kind of been resolved. So here, for instance, like this guy here, just like hanging out right next to his car, you don't want to brake for him, but in this case, this version of FSD did a great job. It kind of like gave him sufficient space, and that was good. So yeah, so we're gonna hang left here onto South Street, and then yeah, I think I'm probably ready to give 14.3 a tryout, given that 14.3.4 seems to have been a version that a lot of folks really like. So you know, living in the city, one annoying thing is just figuring out how to download the stupid thing. There's no Wi-Fi in the garage that I park in, and so I just need to have some time in the car, hotspot it, and then just let the car kind of like do its thing, download it, and then find some time to install it. But there are certainly, it looks like, a lot of kind of neat behaviors with 14.2 14.3 that 14.2 doesn't have. People say that it seems to have like really, really fast reactions, which they say feels safe, and it does not typically like to tailgate on the highway, which I do have noticed that 14.2 certainly tailgates, can tailgate a little bit closer than I like. It's great, this version is great if you're just kind of like out on the highway and there's no one in front of you, but if they're kind of like going slow, it definitely gets a lot closer than I would, you know. Like, I know that the FSD can react pretty fast, but you just never know what's going to happen, and having a little bit more time and space is nice, and it certainly would be nice if, you know, if I could even like give that feedback to FSD. Okay, so this South Street is like really rough here, so I'm actually going to drop us down to chill or maybe even sloth mode, in the interest of not like rattling my car apart. You know, I've noticed that over the years there's probably like a couple of additional rattles that we've picked up, which is, you know, it's kind of like fine. Like up here, I think that this was rattling over the winter, but seems to have gone away now with the summer, and a couple of things down here. I guess it's kind of like bound to happen with all cars, especially I think that having a car in New York City is pretty rough on the car. The roads here are pretty terrible. They were extremely bad this winter. Lots of potholes, lots of kind of issues. It was very snowy. It was a very snowy, cold winter, and so I don't think that did the car any favor. You know, as much as I enjoy having a car, I would certainly say like I'd be quite wary of buying a used car if that car was registered in New York City for any appreciable amount of time. You just see cars here. I mean, it's just so easy to pick up like little dings. You just never know where you get them from, and like I said, roads are not great here. We can see there's like a pothole. I don't know if FSD's, no, I'm not going to avoid it. That's not too bad. But that's just kind of like your standard fare for roads here. So far, FSD doing just about as you expect. So we're kind of making our way up here. This left turn onto Clinton can be a little bit tricky. It can be
500 feet, turn left onto Clinton Street.
You kind of need to like be willing to go for it sometimes. So it'll be interesting to see how FSD does here, whether or not I need to give it a little bit of encouragement, because there are a bunch of cars behind me, and I certainly don't want to be holding up traffic too much. But we'll try to let it play out and see what happens. Now that we're through most of South Street, I'll flip it back over to standard. So yeah, we'll make the left here onto Clinton, and then we'll get onto the Williamsburg Bridge, and then we can kind of see how it goes. And you know, there are a few spots that can be kind of tricky, so I'll be sure to point those out to everyone. So here we go, left-hand turn onto Clinton. Let's see if there is any oncoming traffic. We can't see. Okay, there is oncoming traffic, so we're going to stop here. Great, pull up into the intersection. To be honest, I would have pulled up even more just in case the person behind me wants to go around, but there we go. The light must have turned, so we can go and through, nice and smooth. So as usual with my videos, you know, I will just try and fast forward through any parts that seem a little bit less interesting. A lot of the times now with FSD, like, it's pretty mundane. Although if you can see here in my stats, you'll notice that I'm about at 80% FSD, which feels about right. I tend to kind of intervene or take action whenever I feel like it's necessary, or even sometimes just because pure preference in terms of where I'm going or driving, or even, you know, I think I park a little bit faster than FSD, especially when trying to street park, and I'm willing to, you know, take a stab at a parallel parking spot that's a little smaller than FSD usually would go for. Although, you know, FSD does do a pretty good job when it identifies a spot and it goes for it. So anyways, you know, sit back, relax. We'll talk about things as they happen. And of course, throughout the process, please feel free to leave comments about things that you find interesting, questions you might have, or even feedback you have about how I can, you know, make these sort of videos more interesting for you. So FSD did a pretty good job navigating all of that traffic back there. I don't know if you saw it, but it was pretty jammed up. And now we're going to get onto the Williamsburg Bridge. This bridge is incredibly narrow. You guys will see what I mean once we kind of get going on the bridge, but it is, I would say, uncomfortably narrow for two cars to go side by side once you're in the bridge. So we'll see what I do with the speed profiles here. I want to try and make the profile such that we don't pass, but we're going just about as fast as we can to get through the bridge. Unfortunately, it looks like this Corolla ahead of me is pretty slow, and as you can hear and maybe see, there's a train next to me, so it's pretty loud in here. But so far, okay. I don't see anyone behind me, but if you see, and if I bring up the side view, you can see that we are basically riding the middle line with our left side, and then the right side, you know, we're kind of just maybe have like what is that? Call it like 6, maybe 8 to 12 inches of clearance on the right side. You know, the Model Y is a pretty wide car, so it definitely takes some space. I like that FSD is not afraid to ride the dotted line here, because that's certainly what I would be doing if I were driving manually. Actually, if I were driving manually, I would probably be more over the line to try and dissuade anyone from passing me. It's just so narrow in here, and it feels like if someone's just off by a few inches, you could easily touch. But there we are, went through the bridge, no real problem, so that's great to see. So here we're going to take the ramp to the BQE, and then after we merge onto the BQE, we're going to have to very quickly get over 3 or 4 lanes of traffic to take an exit. I've noticed sometimes FSD needs a little help and a little encouragement for that, so you may see me either intervene or kind of encourage it with the turn signal stock to move over, but we'll really just need to see how it does. Another thing that it's kind of struggled with a little bit here is that there is a merge here in 1,000 feet, and it really likes to just kind of like wait in this lane until the very last second to merge over. I don't know, that could be because of like the solid line. It could also be because it just doesn't know that it's coming. So here you can see right lane ends. Okay, solid line disappears. Okay, we flip on the turn signal, so here maybe it's really because of the solid line. Now you can see we have half mile to move over from the far left lane here on the BQE over to the right lane. Looks like traffic is not too crazy, but you certainly have to make some moves if you want to be able to get over in any kind of like reasonable semblance. So, all right, here we go. Turn signal on. First lane change done, very smooth. There's going to be a truck over to our side, so we're not going to be able to make this lane change. Oh, okay, so it looks like the truck slowed down and let us in. So that's great. Way to go, FSD, to take that, and made it all the way over to the right. So it looks like when FSD has an audience, it doesn't really need to. It doesn't really need any help there. Just kidding. It usually does a decent job, but like I said, I've definitely seen cases where it didn't necessarily do exactly what didn't exactly move over as fast as I would have liked it to, given how little time there is to go from the far left lane to the far right lane. So here, yep, we're going to make a left onto the Guinness Boulevard. Interesting that usually it'll get into the far left lane. Here it decided not to get into the far left lane. That's fine, both lanes go straight, but the problem is like right after we cross the intersection, we're going to have to move over. So again, not the end of the world, you know, certainly capable of doing it, but can be a little bit of an issue. Another thing I've seen with this intersection is sometimes we'll have the green light to go, but I think it reads that no left arrow as like a stop, or it sees like another red light after, like as we come through this bridge as a stop, which isn't quite right. Like we should just continue through the intersection. That's the way that this intersection's set up. So if that happens, you know, I might kind of use the accelerator and then give the car a little bit of encouragement to get it to do the right thing. Certainly have seen that happen enough times on on this. This is an interesting route. I've never seen it do this. Does it really think that that's going to save time?
Now turn left
No.
onto
Okay, so we're going to go back here.
South.
Yeah, you
Now
usually
turn
just stay on the
left
Geddes
onto
Boulevard and
Street.
take it. I don't know why you would go through all of those back roads. That really wouldn't save any time, I don't think. So here we go, green light. Let's see. Looks like, again, FSD is doing great with an audience. So here, lane ends. We have plenty of time because the person in the left lane didn't move over or didn't go, and we had plenty of space. So that was nice to see. But again, just like me knowing the roads, I probably would have positioned myself in the far left lane just to make that a little bit easier on myself. You know, no big deal here. But I feel like this is like one of those differences that you have when you kind of really know where you're going, versus like are not quite sure. So usually the ride down McGinnis is pretty smooth. So, you know, enjoy it. If there's anything interesting that happens, I will flag it and let you guys know. But in all likelihood, there really won't be here. Okay, one thing I don't love is that there is a pothole right there. That was pretty uncomfortable. I don't know if you can feel it. And then like a smaller one, I mean, it's not really a pothole, it's like manhole cover that's turned kind of into a pothole. And FSD just seems to like really love hitting that pothole. So, you know, I know in the release notes, even for 14.3.4, it says pothole avoidance coming soon. You know, I cannot wait for that to happen because I really hate driving my car into potholes, as I'm sure many of you feel the same way. Excuse me. And so, you know, just cannot wait for the car and FSD to be able to avoid the potholes on its own. All right, so we're gonna continue down this road for a little bit longer, and then make a left onto 43rd Ave and then Vernon Boulevard, and then we'll go across the bridge to Roosevelt Island. And we'll check in at, you know, different points along the way whenever something interesting happens, or you know, just check in. Alright, so here's an interesting one. At this intersection, I definitely would have gotten over to one lane to the right, because here, as you can see, this is a left turn only lane. Most people go straight through this, so that's fine. FSD was able to navigate that pretty nicely and move over appropriately, but you know, same kind of thing. If I'd been over one lane, then it wouldn't have had to make that move later. Now, I don't know if it has those, you know, turn only lanes in the nav or not. If it does, and it's not thinking that far ahead, you know, that's certainly a shame because it has information. And if it doesn't, that just points to the fact that Tesla map data is just, you know, I think that there have been a lot of complaints in terms of the maps data with Teslas, and I think kind of rightfully so. Alright, so here we are making the left onto Roosevelt Island. One of the things that I really hate about this route is this road here. It is really, oh geez, the sun is really in my eyes. Sorry guys, I wanted to put this down for a little bit. The road here is really rough. It's just like, you know, you can tell it had a bunch of potholes and then it got filled in over time, and it's just not nice. And as you could probably hear there, I think there's a little squeak. I think it's coming from the passenger seat. And whenever I drive over that piece, you can really kind of like hear that squeak going. And then you have to drive over this like metal graded bridge, which is also like not the most fun thing in the world in terms of like, you know, what the suspension has to deal with. So it's fine, right? Like none of these things are done in the world, but just be nice if the roads were a little bit smoother. or obviously if the suspension is a little bit more compliant. Now this is not a, this is not a Juniper. Those suspensions are better, but even then, even with a good suspension, New York roads are just kind of rough, and that road, I think, there are no giant potholes, but it's just like pretty uneven. So here on Roosevelt Island, there are going to be a bunch of stop signs along Main Street as we go towards the Racket Club. Now, one kind of like thing that I haven't been able to figure out is how exactly to get the Racket Club's parking lot into the system, because if you look at, okay, come on, you have it, just go. Yeah, so like FSD there could have been a little bit more assertive with that stop sign. You never know if, because it was being a little too passive, if the person there would have just like front ran us or not. Anyways, if you look here, you can kind of see that it wants to go like all the way around front to the front of the Racket Club, and that's not correct. There's a parking lot behind the Racket Club that we can use. Now the problem is that I'm unable to actually drop a pin in the parking lot because it's under the Queensboro Bridge, and so every time I try to drop a pin on the maps, it actually thinks that I am like trying to go to the bridge. So I don't really know. Maybe I need to try and like send the location from okay, that lady's waving me through, so FSD's too polite making the stop. I didn't end up hitting the accelerator, but it's good that it went. Yeah, maybe I need to try and like drop the pin from my phone, if I can select the parking lot correctly on my phone. But I think that okay, there FSD kind of like slowed down unnecessarily for the pedestrian. As you could see, and I think it was going to like see if that pedestrian wanted to cross, but as you can see, the pedestrian wasn't really looking to cross in front of us. They were looking for us to go, and then they crossed behind us. So he gave me a kind of a little weird look there. So, oh, okay, yeah, Main Street's a bit bumpy too. So, anyways, as you can kind of tell with that interaction with pedestrians, the FSD can be pretty safe, which is great. It's really good to be safe, but sometimes it just does things that folks are not quite expecting here in New York.
Now turn left to stay on
So,
Main Street.
yeah, here we go. Another few stop signs left, and then I will have to manually pull the car into the parking lot. So I'll probably just cut it a little short, since that's not really interesting at all. But yeah, hopefully this was enjoyable for you guys. It's been a while since I've done this, so again, any feedback or kind of things that you want to know about, happy to take those. So leave a comment below. If you're not subscribed and you think that this sort of thing is interesting, I'm going to try and do it a little bit more regularly. I'm pretty sporadic with it. I do it when I can, but I kind of enjoy it. I kind of enjoy talking about FSD and what it could do, and I think the capabilities have come really far. So I'll try to get back at it. And if you like the video, throw me a like. Otherwise, I will see you guys at the next one.